At home, we are, as it were.
In 1939, the United States was the only world power without a government-funded international radio service. With World War II well underway, the U.S. government decided it needed to counter Nazi propaganda. So on February 1st, 1942, less than 2 months after the U.S. entered the war, VOA beamed its first radio broadcast to Europe. Announcer William Harlan Hale opened the German language program with the words,
Hier spricht die Stimme Amerikas.
"We bring you voices from America. Today and daily from now on, we shall speak to you about America and the war. The news may be good for us, the news may be bad, but we shall tell you the truth." By June 1942, VOA was growing rapidly. From its original headquarters in New York, VOA expanded into the Office of War Information in Washington, D.C., where it began producing news programs in 27 languages that its powerful shortwave transmitters beamed around the world. VOA would continue to grow in popularity after the war ended in 1945, broadcasting in even more languages and spreading American music around the world through programs like the late Willis Conover's iconic Jazz Hour.
This is the Voice of America Jazz Hour. The music of jazz parallels the freedom that we have in America.
VOA's mission was to reach behind the Iron Curtain and bring news and information to areas of the world where press freedom was limited or non-existent.
This is the Voice of America broadcasting worldwide. President Kennedy is dead.
It was during the 1960s and 70s that VOA took significant steps toward becoming one of the world's leading international broadcasters. During this time, technical facilities and programming to every part of the world were greatly expanded. VOA was the media outlet that allowed millions of people to hear live coverage of Neil Armstrong setting foot on the moon, as hundreds of radio stations around the world relayed the historic event.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
However, it was during the 8-year tenure of VOA's longest-serving director to date, Kenneth Giddens, that VOA enhanced its credibility through its straightforward reporting of two events that helped define the time: the war in Vietnam,
That illegal activity.
and the Watergate scandal. VOA's reporting not only drew praise from the American press, but also from listeners in every part of the world, as tens of thousands wrote in to express their appreciation for VOA's comprehensive and objective coverage. Recognizing its tremendous potential and the need to modernize, VOA began to rebuild and update programming and technical capabilities even further during the 1980s. VOA increased its Mandarin and Cantonese broadcasts in 1989 to bring tens of millions of Chinese listeners accurate reports of the pro-democracy movement that filled Beijing's Tiananmen Square and the streets of dozens of Chinese cities. In the fall and winter of that same year, VOA reported on the historic changes that were sweeping across Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union, changes that some have credited, at least in part, to the Voice of America and other Western international broadcasters. As the Iron Curtain fell in the early 1990s and Eastern Europe gradually embraced democratic ideals, VOA continued a daily flow of accurate and objective news and information to the region. With the dawn of a new millennium, VOA would enter yet another era of journalism.
It's music time in Africa.
Some flagship programs remained, including music and educational programming. The late ethnomusicologist Leo Sarkeesian's Music Time in Africa entered its fourth decade of building bridges between the U.S. and Africa. Sarkeesian recorded and collected music from nearly every African country, and his program remains VOA's longest-running music broadcast to the continent.
The VOA Special English
VOA's Special English would embrace television as a medium to provide news and information for millions of English learners worldwide, while the agency collectively began to reach new audiences via the internet and mobile devices and document the growing challenges of an ever-changing world. Today, the Voice of America is a modern multimedia international broadcaster, providing news and information in more than 45 languages on multiple platforms. Audiences around the world access VOA's programming on radio, television, the internet, and social media. More than 3,500 affiliate radio and television stations worldwide receive VOA programming by satellite or through the internet, and more than 300 million people count on VOA for news and information about their world every week. VOA has been on the forefront of exemplifying a free press in regions of the world where it is in short supply, giving voice to the voiceless, combating misinformation and disinformation through journalism, and offering in-depth analysis and fresh perspectives on world events. Moving forward, VOA continues to embrace new technologies and platforms as it adapts its programming to meet the needs of its global audience. Despite difficult conditions and sometimes unfriendly environments, VOA's journalists and the hundreds of technical and administrative staff who support them remain dedicated to their task of accurate, unbiased reporting. Around the world, it's this reporting that connects communities and gives its audience sometimes their only taste of uncensored information. VOA will continue to share news about America and the world. Through our reporters, our writers, editors, producers, and the entire staff behind the scenes, the Voice of America continues its more than 80-year tradition of serving as a reliable and authoritative source of news and information about the United States and the regions it covers worldwide. And even today, the words from our very first broadcast continue to remain true. Whether the news may be good or the news may be bad, we shall tell you the truth.